Major backlash over a new policy allowing passengers to carry small knives on board a plane and sports equipment like souvenir baseball bats and golf clubs. Flight attendants, the pilots, federal air marshals, even insurance companies are not happy about it, all demanding the TSA reconsider before they say it is too late. Jon Adler is one of them, president of the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. And good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
You have in your hand a knife that will be now acceptable at the end of April. Show us.
That's correct. This complies with TSA standards. They think this particular knife does not pose a risk to anybody traveling. Now imagine if I take this knife here, very difficult to notice, and I come up from behind someone who's seated on the aircraft, which most of us are, because that's what we do on planes. We sit in a very confined space, and someone comes up without warning, because terrorists aren't polite, and comes at us in the back of the neck where we're vulnerable, and stabs us repeatedly. What's going to happen? Federal Correctional Officer Erica Williams on February 26 was stabbed over 100 times in probably 15 seconds by a psychotic inmate with a plastic knife. Over 100 times, and he was standing. So now TSA thinks allowing something like this on a plane somehow doesn't pose a risk to federal law enforcement officers, flight attendants, or Americans flying. Is their view that the Americans in the cabin are disposable? Are they expendable? It's nonsense.
Couple things here. You see no difference between that knife and a box cutter,
no,
which was used on September 11th.
No.
What the TSA says is that the cockpit's been reinforced and therefore we can relax some of the rules. You say?
I say while it is a valid concern that we don't want our planes turned into missiles, that doesn't negate the need to protect everyone in the cabin as well as federal law enforcement officers flying armed. We are here to risk our lives to protect passengers, flight attendants, the pilots, everyone.
And the air marshals oftentimes are the last line of defense, as we have watched over the last 10 years. Sarah Nelson, do you know her?
I have not met her.
She represents the Flight Attendants Union. She was here on our program yesterday, works out of Boston, United Airlines. This is what she said about this changing policy.
Let's not forget that it was blades that caused what happened on September 11th, right? And I'm a Boston flight attendant for United Airlines. It was my friends who died on September 11th, so this is personal for me. But it's also very concerning for flight attendants throughout the country.
And it's personal to you also, whether it's the flight attendants or the air marshals. You're starting a national campaign to get the TSA to reverse its decision.
Correct.
Will that happen?
We hope so. We're going to fight to win. We're going to appeal to the president. We're going to appeal to the American public. Folks, contact your elected officials. Let them know that this is unacceptable. This does not belong on a plane. We need your support, and we're going to appeal to President Obama to rescind this ridiculous policy.
Here's what the TSA says, in part. On the screen now, taking small knives, such as you see here, the novelty-sized bats and the certain sporting equipment off of the prohibited items list will allow transportation security officers to better focus their efforts on finding higher threat items. It goes on to say the final decision rests with TSA on whether to allow any items on the plane, suggesting you would look for an explosive item or something that could cause more damage.
The TSOs have been very competent and efficient in terms of looking for both. What this is going to do is this is going to cause greater delays at the line, because now we're going to have passengers carrying these, pulling them out, and they're going to have debate over whether or not it complies with the measurement standards. That's ridiculous. The screeners are still going to have to look for this. Now all this is going to do is put them in imminent danger, because they're going to be looking at the point of whether it's a knife, the tip of a blade, but people are going to pull them out and saying, you see, this is good. And we're going to subject them to that sort of dialogue, that possible encounter at such close range. It's idiotic. Well, it's unnecessary.
I can feel the heat and the emotion coming from you. We will be in contact with you. We've reached out to the TSA as well. We'd like to get the head of the organization on our air and defend this policy. But Jon Adler, thank you for your time, okay?
Pleasure.
Appreciate your
Thank you, Bill.
input. You bet.